exact second coincide with each other, but again, roughly looking at the light with the individual persons on those cameras, watching them. It's the best way I can explain it to you.
Okay. And the other way would have been to determine how much actual time passed on the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video between the floodlight and the shot heard, and then use that same actual amount of time to rewind the 1616 restart video, right?
Yes, roughly.
Which of those two methodologies did you use?
I think we explored every option, just to try to gauge the best possible, but I can't tell you which one I believe was more accurate than the other. Again, I just looked at the totality of all these things to see that they coincided.
Well, my question really more is, which one did you use? How did you do it?
I mean, I looked at both. But I think the one that stood out more to me was the light, the floodlight.
I understand, but I'm saying, did you rewind both videos, the 6200 and the 1616, to the exact same amount?
I don't recall whether it was running to the exact second, but to the point where it coincided with the sound. And so, yes, I mean, to answer your question directly, roughly, yes, about the same time.
Okay. Bear with me once. Okay. I'm going to play you a couple of clips. I'm not sure that we're ready. But when creating the sequenced surveillance video, it wasn't an exact science, right?
No.
Okay. Meaning the overlapping was done by hand, right?
Correct.
In fact, I think that 55 seconds into the sequence surveillance video, you could see that little cursor being moved by hand in the upper right corner. Did you see that?
I don't recall that.
All right, we'll show you that.
Sure.
Which exhibit is this?
Is this People's 15 or we're using our own? This is People's 15 already. We'll use this one for this.
You're using 15 was thumb drive.
Okay, just switch it. Use it.
I'm just saying it's 15. That's fine. We downloaded it.
We're using 15 now? Anyway, once we get all this figured out here, at 55 seconds on that video, we're going to see hopefully. See if you can look in the upper right hand corner and you can see that little cursor being moved by hand. The upper right hand corner at 55 seconds.
Okay.
See that? See the cursor?
I do.
See those balls over there, those little round things? Did you see it moving around?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that means obviously it's being moved by hand by someone.
That would give me an indication that it is.
And as you said, you saw the floodlight turn on in camera 2, which again we identified as file 18221-716 from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard at 10:17:26.
Okay.
And you heard the first shot on camera 2, different file number, which is 18220214, at an earlier moment, which you believe to be 30 seconds earlier based on the timestamps. Correct?
Sir, I'm not sure I understand your question. The two shots at different.
No. The first shot on camera 2, which was filed, well, 18220214. That's the name of the file number that I have to identify.
Okay.
You heard the first shot on camera 2 at an earlier moment, which you believe to be 30 seconds earlier based on the timestamps, right?
Correct.
So you figured the first shot would have occurred 30 seconds earlier in that same surveillance video in actual time.
Sir, I'm not
Okay.
understand your question.
Did you, well, you agree that you said you went back 30 seconds, or 30 seconds earlier is when you heard that first shot, right?
Again, in comparison to the videos, as far as what the times they reflect.
Oh.
Yes.
And that's 30 seconds earlier than what the first, what camera 2 showed?
Correct.
All right. And you use that same exact amount of time, 30 seconds, to go back on the 1616 Vista Del Mar video?
I believe so.
You'd agree if the floodlight turned on less than 30 seconds in actual time, after the shot was heard on the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video, that means you went back too far on the Vista Del Mar video, right? If the floodlight turned on less than 30 seconds.
Again, sir, this is, I mean, it wasn't an exact science,
I'm
but,
not criticizing.
so I'm not trying the exact seconds that you're pointing out. So
Well, again, you just
roughly,
said,
yes.
right, what I'm saying is you just said you went back 30 seconds early based on the timestamps and what you observed.
Correct, just roughly within that period.
And, right. So my question was, and again, I'm not criticizing your methodology, I'm just asking. If the floodlight turned on less than 30 seconds in actual time after the shot was heard on the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video, that means that if you went back 30 seconds, that would be a little too far, right?
Could be, yes.
Okay. With regard to the 6200 Hollywood Boulevard video, you extracted 3 sets of videos from 3 different cameras maintained by the residents at that location.
Correct, that was what was provided.
And to your understanding, those cameras run in actual time.
Yes, live.
But each camera, I think we've already discussed this last time we were here the other day. In fact, each camera is off from actual time by a different amount between 2 to 3 minutes.
I'm not sure if it's that camera that was on.
Check because it misstates the stipulation.
What's the stipulation?
That's
Reread it.
Equals 35, remember?
Go over it with Mr. Sealer.
You want to approach?
They want to approach, we do that.
Right, you approach, you need to clarify something. You're on.
All right, just.
let's just do this. Let's just play a few videos for you, okay?
Okay.
The first video, and this is again, I want to show you about the timing. This is camera 1, which is file 18220-237. You hear the first shot at 10:15:53. Tell me if you agree with that. Go ahead.
That's correct.
Okay. So you heard the first shot on that camera at 10:15:53.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm going to play camera 2, which I'm going to identify again by file number, which is 18220-214. And you hear the same first shot just over a minute later on this camera at 10:16:56. Tell me if you agree with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that was 10:16:56 at that camera, which is over a minute later from the first camera.
Correct.
All right. And on the third camera, which is file 1A221240, you hear, hold on a second, right? You hear that same first shot 4 seconds after that last video at 10:17 on the dot. Tell me if you agree.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So a reason that the times would be off from each other is because two of the clocks are running faster than the other.
That could be a reason. Yes, independent systems.
Okay. And a reason that a timestamp on a camera would be faster than actual time is because the clock for that camera would be running faster than actual time.
Yes, sir. Just like here in the courtroom.
Good example. Just like here in the court. With that in mind, let's look at one more. Let's look at video from camera 2 just before the flow light goes off. And now I think the defense exhibit we're going to show, right?
DD.
DD, Your Honor. This is from 6200 Hollywood Boulevard. Again, I read the file number. I'll read it again. It's 182211716. The first, before you play, hold on a second. The first timestamp shown on this camera is 10:17:17.
That's correct.
Okay. And the video itself is at 0 seconds because, hold on a second. I just want to make sure we're in the same video here. We do have, in fact, the same video. Okay. So I think you just agreed the video itself is at 0 seconds because it has not started yet, correct, sir?
That's correct.
10:17:17 seconds.
Yes, sir. On the clock. Lower clock.
All right, let's play the video until the floodlight is on. 9 seconds later at 10:17:26. Go ahead, please. Okay, you see that?
Yes.
Floodlight on?
Correct.
I'm sorry?
Yes,
Okay. And it says 10:17:26.
it does.
And how many seconds faster than, how many seconds later from 10:17:17 is that?
9 seconds.
9 seconds. Yeah, how many seconds right off the clock?
8.
So that's something's wrong there, right?
Yes, I mean,
Okay.
whether or not it would stop right at 8 between 9, I don't know how to explain it.
Well, okay. The clock says, Chad, so it's 10:17:26 seconds, which is 9 seconds after 10:17:17 seconds. But the video only ran 8 seconds. You can see that, correct? And the this would indicate, at least here, that the video is about 1 second past here.
Could be within 1 second, correct?
And given that, it's fair to say that the shot heard on 1616 East Del Mar should have been about a second later than shown in the sequence surveillance video, right?
It's certainly not my area of expertise as far as the way sound travels and light travels. I know they travel at different speeds. That would be within my expertise. But that's correct.
Okay, that's correct. Okay. You put this together, the sequence surveillance video, right?
No.
Who did?
I believe it was somebody in the attorney's office.
Okay. Off of this stuff now. Just two more things, and we're done. Now you can. You earlier testified about the police officers who arrived at the scene on November 6th, 2021. Remember those 7 officers?
Yes, I do.
They were there for approximately 20 minutes, more or less?
I think more or less.
20 minutes, yes. Okay. And one last thing. You submitted, I guess, in January of 2024, evidence to the ballistics lab for testing in this case, right?
Thereabouts, yes.
And the testing was done, oh, I'm sorry, it was done it was submitted in December of 2023, right?
I believe that's correct.
I can just refresh.
I believe when the return came back, it was a different date than when it was submitted.
You're right. Just take a look, make sure. On the same page here.
Yes, sir.
So that report was, I guess, finalized in January 8th, 2024.
That's correct.
And that was given back to you, this report?
Yes, it was submitted to myself and one of my partners.
But yet, that report was not given to the district attorney until about 2 weeks ago, for the first time, correct?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Over a year since the report was given back to you or one of your partners.
Correct. That's my understanding, yes, sir. I believe it had been given, but I could be in error. Correct.
Well, obviously, the district attorney represented that they got it the first time 2 weeks ago.
Correct.
The DA, was the DA even informed of its existence, do you know?
I'm sorry, what point?
Now, at this point, it's going to be a 3-2 against state court staff.
Okay. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Sir,
Motion strike whatever answer was given. I don't know, was there an answer?
I don't think you gave an answer.
The question is stricken, and if there was an answer, that's stricken as well.
So
Mr.
the last question, correct?
The last question? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Zolman, do you have anything?
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Detective, when you were testifying, I believe that was on Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
You were asked questions about the latent fingerprint examination of the fired cartridge cases in this case. Do you remember that?
yes,
And as a detective, you said you have almost 30 years of experience as a police officer, correct?
just past my 29th anniversary. Yes.
Okay. If I round you up 1 year, we call it just approximately 30 years.
I appreciate it.
There. Okay. Do you have an understanding of what could potentially impact whether or not you would find a fingerprint on any kind of object?
Yes.
What are some of the factors that you're aware of?
Time in which it was processed, the exposure to the elements, rain, water, foot traffic, cars, depending on where it's at, wind, other weather events, anything, other people vehicles. I mean, it just depends on where the item is going to be processed, with conditions it's found in, and how long it's exposed to those conditions.
What about temperature? Is that one of the things that would be potentially affected?
Yes.
Injection building.
Would exposure of a fingerprint to something of high temperature potentially impact whether or not it's able to be located later?
I think so.
You also said that you've had extensive experience firing firearms, throughout your law enforcement career, correct?
Yes.
When a gun discharges a fired cartridge casing, when it first comes out of the gun, is it hot?
Yes, on a semi-automatic specifically, when it ejects the cartridges, just from personal experience, I've had them land on me. When we go to the police academy to shoot a qualify, we run a line. So oftentimes the casings are ejected as the next person next to you is firing. So I've many times felt that the casing land in my neck or in my collar, and they're hot.
In your nearly 30 years of experience, 29 years of experience as a police officer, do you personally recall any cases of yours where fingerprints were developed from the fired cartridge case?
None that I can think of.
And you said you've worked on homicide cases, correct?
Yes, sir.
A fair number of those involve firearms.
A good majority, yes.
Can you give the jury any idea of how many cases you've handled over your career?
I mean, between homicide cases or cases involving firearms, as the lead investigator or assisting in investigations, probably to date, I would say probably in excess of 2,000 cases I've assisted or led.
You were asked similar questions about DNA evidence potentially on the fired cartridge case, correct?
Yes.
And based on your background and experience, do you have any idea of things that could impact whether or not DNA is present on an item?
I mean, along the same lines as fingerprints, exposure to the elements, contamination, anything from human contamination, vehicle, wherever it's exposed to, weather.
Could temperature also potentially impact it as well?
Yes.
In your almost 30 years experience as a police officer, can you personally recall any cases where DNA was developed on a fired cartridge case in one of your cases?
Not that I can think of.
After the cartridge cases are booked, in your experience as a police officer, can they be made available to the defense if the defense wants to conduct their own independent testing?
Yes.
In this case, could the defense have done their own DNA testing?
Yes.
On cross-examination, you were specifically asked if you observed any video of Mr. Efron returning to the crime scene the night of this incident. Was there any video in this case that you ever had possession of that was captured after 11:20 p.m., capturing specifically that intersection of Vista Del Mar and Selma?
No.
I want you to assume, for purposes of a hypothetical, that victim in a case returns to a crime scene at 11:45 p.m. Would the video that you recovered that only goes to 11:20, would that video have shown that person's presence at the scene?
No, it would not.
You were also asked about Mr. Efron's girlfriend returning to the scene. Assume the same hypothetical that she came back with that individual at 11:20. Would the video that you collected in this case, would it even show her?
At 11:20?
Sorry, if she returned with Mr. Efron at 11:45, the video that only goes up to 11:20 show her?
No.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor. This is the fact, not an evidence. It would just mean that they didn't
Overruled.
have the video.
No speaking objections. Overruled.
Okay.